Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right.
We get a door closer, maybe? You think so? We're not, there's certain outside noise.
Lisa, could you
Yeah.
shut that door?
All of them. Right.
Catty, could you shut those doors?
It's rock and roll.
All right. Okay, we are here, PEA and Polk County Public Schools, our negotiation session number 5 on November 19th, 2025. And I believe that the ball is in our court on all issues right now, so we will go ahead and start. So the first thing that we wanted to put across for your review is an MOU for the millage. And we wanted to start getting that ball rolling. We've looked at a lot of the MOUs, and actually I think most of my team has it, so that's all your side. And we've looked at most of the MOUs around millage referendum around the state. So this is pretty similar to Hillsborough's MOU. We found that that was probably the most comprehensive. And we liked that format the best. So that's really, we don't have to necessarily talk through too much of it tonight. But I wanted to go through some of the points on there, for the people watching, and then we can discuss more about this, because I know you guys will want some time to take a look at it. But we wanted to get the conversation started on that, since the Board of County Commissioners did the right thing yesterday by moving it to the Supervisor of Elections for the voters to decide. So essentially, this sets parameters for the potential millage money that will come once the voters make a decision. And we are hoping that our voters stand strong and support public schools and vote yes on this millage. And then we will be out educating folks on what this means for our district and for our teachers and staff and our school-based personnel and their kids. Because everybody wins when children have quality educators wall to wall in front of them every day. And so it lays out that 80% of the dollars per the resolution in the ballot language is up for salary. Obviously, we have to pull out per statute the charter school allotment, and that's in number 2, less charter school payout. Hillsborough had a guaranteed $6,000 additional supplement, and we won't be generating as much revenue. And so we are proposing an additional $5,000 supplement for employees. Going through, it laid out the parameters of the years, and that this does have to be renewed every 4 years in the general election. It will be treated as base salary pay. It'll be subject to FRS. It'll be put within the employee's regularly scheduled paychecks, and that there will be a section on the pay stub that identifies the millage referendum money, so that they can see that millage referendum money in their check separate from the base salary. And then going through that, it would be equitably distributed, and that total funds, if there were more funds than projected, we would meet to discuss a remedy to disperse payment. The same way as if there was a shortfall of money that ended up coming in that we weren't prepared for, we would then come back and meet about remedies on how to fix that. But I believe I have not heard from any of my colleagues of them having a shortfall. It's generally they have overages that they have to distribute out to employees. And then we would have a We would address concerns over eligibility on a case-by-case should the need arise. May 1st of each year, the millage revenue is generated. We will convene to review this agreement. And this includes all PEA CBAs throughout the duration of the agreement. Knowing that you have some other groups that you have to deal with. And then contingencies, obviously we'd be signing this MOU before the voters vote, but this would be in place if the voters do decide to go ahead with this. Obviously, this is contingent upon the bargaining unit ratifying this agreement and the school board. The millage projecting approximate revenue about $80 million for Polk schools over a 4-year period of time is successfully passed. You would not be held to this. We would not be held to this if the millage, for whatever reason, did not pass. Compensation improvements provided through this millage referendum are non-reoccurring after the 2031 fiscal year unless it's approved again by the voters in November of 30. And that the superintendent will establish a citizens oversight committee, which is in the ballot language and the resolution, to monitor and report on the revenue and expenditures. The Polk Education Association will have a proportional representation on the citizens oversight committee, concurrent with the proportional representation of employees covered under PEA CBAs. Funds generated from the millage referendum are intended to supplement an employee's base salary, and are not intended to diminish or supplant any other funds available to increase employee wages each year. And the parties shall meet no later than May 1st of each year of this agreement. This agreement is in effect to review revenue reports from the Citizens Oversight Committee and negotiate any needed changes to the agreement. And then this would sunset at the end of the 2031 fiscal year unless the millage referendum is renewed by the voters of Polk County that previous November. And so those, and it's pretty similar to Hillsboro's language, and we had added in a few other pieces from others, but it's mainly from Hillsboro. So we wanted to get that over to you guys and get this all rolling so that we can start hashing this out. So then that can be part of the education piece so that employees know what they would be looking at so that that's part of that education for not only employees, but for our community.
So I'm going to offer first, thank you. I have had opportunity to review as we were preliminarily months, maybe even a year before. I had already reviewed the Hillsboro MOU.
Okay.
So I'm acquainted with it.
Okay.
I do appreciate the time to take this back. There's a lot of details.
Oh, yeah.
I do know it flows through the model of the Hillsboro but with respect to our RT system. And I want to be careful on our wording of supplements and base pay, those kinds of things with respect to taxes and all those things that go follow suit there. So
yep, absolutely.
we will
and so
take
we
this
just
back and get back with you.
perfect. I guess we should be using the mic. Sorry. We just wanted to get the ball rolling on that so that, we can have that as we're educating our community and staff. So that's the first part. And then the second part, we wanted to give you guys some survey results of a survey we put out to our bargaining unit after the last session. And so we asked if they were to vote on the employer's 1% wage increase now, how would they vote? And 17% said that they would vote yes on the wage increase, and 83% said that they would vote no. And we had some conversations offline that we were very clear that we couldn't accept the 1% and take that out for ratification, knowing that it would fail. So we wanted to give you that data. The bargaining unit also had said, we had put the question to them, they want us to table parental leave and sick leave buyback, knowing that it could add $1.5 million to the pot of money for wage increases. And so 19% said to keep working on parental leave and sick leave buyback. The 81% said to add that money to the salaries for this year. And so for the record, we are going to table the parental leave and the sick leave buyback until we can get to open book so that $1.5 million can come back to the pot of money for salaries for 25-26. And then on the back side, we had asked, and this is going to be relevant when we talk about the behavior language in a little bit. And so have you or students in your care been hit, kicked, spit on, cussed, or witnessed destruction of a classroom or property by another student? 74% said yes. So that was 1,826 respondents from that. And some of the no's were because they're not really in a position to witness some of that, but that was the behavior section. And then in your classroom or in your position, have you personally experienced or handled a student where the disruptive effect of the student's behavior is so extreme as to inhibit or stop the instructional process or hinder the school environment? And 70% said yes. And then in your experience, was the extremely disruptive student removed from the learning environment for the rest of the period or day from your supervision? Or is the student returned to your supervision in the same period or day you requested removal? 59% said that the student was returned. And then 41% said that they were not returned. And I will say, just based on the calls and the emails that we get and our school visits that we do, this tends to be more of an issue with the student returning in elementary. And I think it's because of the way the day is structured, they're smaller. But we are seeing some very violent behavior in the elementary schools. And that could be for a host of reasons, but at the end of the day, it's our position that one child should not be able to disrupt the learning environment for 20, 30 other children and that teacher or paraeducator that's in the room. And so we wanted to present you guys this data, and we'll be referring back to it as we talk about some of these language proposals. And what we want to do, we're going to go through the language non-economics first. Do you have any questions or anything about the survey?
I do, just really I do only to understand kind of the metrics, the numbers guy, detailed person. So when I look up at the ESP para teacher contract, I guess of those who returned responses was 123, 326.
Under about 2,500.
And then I'm just trying to understand, because I was going through and doing some fuzzy adding
Yeah.
up. So on the 1%, we know that's a clear 83%,
Mhm.
2,046 replied to that. And then when we go down to the 1.5 million, that's 2,475. So that's still, I'm trying to get
So
it
what
on
we
the last
did-
page, it's 24.
Yeah.
It adds up to 2,475,
Mhm.
2,475. And the bottom
So-
question, your very last
yeah.
one on the second page is 1,730.
So what we did is it branched, and so
Okay.
if they answered no, that they hadn't experienced that, then they didn't answer the last question of were they removed, because it would have been an NA.
Alright.
And so it branched off that if they answered no, that they had not experienced that, it ended the survey, and then that last question was for people that did say yes.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let's move into teacher Article 6. There are 3 pieces of language in teacher 6. All right, so we will start, and this is where Tracy actually might want to come back up to the main table. In teacher 6.2, Mr. Hyde had asked us about some more non-economics that could help make things, if we're in a tight year, which we know we're in a tight year. In light of that, what are some non-economics that wouldn't cost any money, any true money, that we could help alleviate some of the workload and some of the time that teachers and staff are dealing with right now in schools? And so when we started looking at some other contracts, and some of the feedback that we've gotten from our folks, we have 360 student max contact minutes. And a lot of the districts around us, it's a little bit less than that. And so our first proposal in 6.2 is to change the 360 maximum student contact to 345. And we ran a few different schedules. And that wouldn't touch instructional time, but what that would bring back to teachers is some of the non-instructional duties that they're asked to do maybe before or after school, like before or after the kids are officially in school and when they get released. So like that morning and afternoon duty, maybe some of the time that they're in between classes, things like that. And that would bring back 15 minutes of time to them. And it would impact non-instructional duty, because when we checked several schedules based on the 45-minute day, the 50-minute day, even, you know, a little bit more than that in some elementary levels, it wouldn't touch the instructional time. And so we were cognizant of that. And then the second part in 6.2, a lot of concerns have been raised, and we don't have language to support this, for our non-classroom teachers or not traditional instructional positions, that they're being pulled to do like student supervision duty a lot. It could be upwards to 3 hours in a day of their 7.75 that they're being pulled to do morning and afternoon duty, to do all lunch duty, and then they're not able to get their actual job done. And so what we are proposing is that non-classroom, non-instructional positions within this contract, not regularly assigned to students, shall have no more than 90 minutes per day of student contact duties that fall outside of their regular duties as specified within their job description. And so that really caps the time that they're away and having to probably do that work outside of their contract. Because if you're pulling a school counselor, and I know this is happening at one of the elementary schools, and we have, and Ann Everett's been wonderful with helping facilitate that's not allowable. But it's still, you know, we want to make sure that there's actual contract protection that says that they're only allowed to use them for 90 minutes of not up to 90 minutes of non-instructional student supervision time. And then in 6.3 on page 5, a non-economic would be, we are proposing to strike through even on a week shortened by holiday. And we are wanting to add back in, principals and supervisors will not hold a PLC or faculty meeting on shortened weeks due to a holiday or full split staff development day. In-service points for PLC work will be loaded into the online district professional development system scheduler by the end of each semester, and that's a two-parter. This brings back time to principals. I know that language was just changed last year so that we could have all the early dismissal days, but if we're truly digging in and talking about non-economics and things that would make teachers' lives better, this would be something that would make teachers' lives better. You know, shortened weeks are already very stressful for people. They seem like the longest week, even if it's a 4-day week. So to give some time back to them in a year where we are struggling on the economic side, this would be something that teachers would really like to see come back. And we also put in the PLC in-service points, because we had been finding out through the years that some APCs or principals either didn't know or weren't doing it. And so that they're getting in-service points for that PLC time, so that when they go to renew, all they really have to worry about is their students with disabilities, 20 points, and if they're tagged now for the 40-hour reading. And so that would really be their only responsibility outside of their day, to ensure that they have all 120 points to recertify every 5 years. And then the last part in Article 6 is toward the end. And I will say, I caught this when we had already printed all of them. And so this is not a strike through. This is actual new language. And so please take out the strike through. And when I upload it, Karen, to the shared drive, I'll make sure that it doesn't have a strike through in it. And so we are countering on the AC rejection. Um, Last week. So we want staff to have the ability to turn their thermostats as low as 70 degrees when the units are set to cooling and as high as 72 when the units are set to heating. Staff will have access to toggle between cooling and heating as needed. What we found after the cold snap last week is we had several that were just automatically turned to heat because of the way the temperature was. And really Tuesday was our coldest day and we weren't in school because we were gone for Veterans Day. And so when people came in on Wednesday, and it was cold that morning, but it warmed up to almost 70 that day outside, and people's heat could not turn off. And so we want the ability to be able to, if we're going to control the AC minimum or maximum, we at least want to be able to control if it's on heat or air. And actually Tyler's on our bargaining team, and I want to pass the mic to him because he had a story from today that we wanted to make you guys aware of that I didn't know until we were briefing in our meeting before.
So,
And he's at Jesse King.
yeah, so yeah, I'm Tyler Anderson at Jesse King Elementary. I'm the music teacher there. So what happened today is just before the third graders were there for music class, the event started not only just like having this strange smell like something was burning, but there was literally steam coming out of the vents. And this applied not only to the music room, but also to the art room, as well as most of the other rooms that were within the building. We call it the specials building. So this affected an entire building. And this was a thing that affected specials for music and art all throughout the day. So it also lost some instruction time because we were trying to figure out like where we needed to go in order for the students to still learn during that day. And this is a thing that could have been easily fixed had we have been able to control this and prevent this type of thing, because I'm not sure if it was like some type of malfunction in the system or if it was like a heating thing, but it was definitely something that the teachers couldn't control at the time. And so as a result, we had no choice but to evacuate the building and go elsewhere, which as a result still lost some instruction time. And that itself was also, I think, is a safety concern for students, because if that something like that would happen during the middle of the day, now all of a sudden you have these like type of smoke that is dangerous for both teachers and staff to breathe in. So it's also a safety concern in and of itself that teachers can't control their own classroom to prevent something like that from happening.
Thank you, Tyler. And we understand and we know the concerns about the air. And I know that you guys are working on solutions. But specifically to be able to toggle back and forth between heat and air is important because it shouldn't be controlled automatically from somewhere and then people are burning up in their classrooms when it's not cold outside anymore. And I can tell you personally, if the heat ever came on in my room, you better check me out because it would just never happen. I get too hot anyway. And I think a lot of people are like that too, where once the heat's on, it's a dry, gross heat. And it's maybe chilly in the morning and then it doesn't need to be on anymore, but they don't have control over that once it's set to heating. And so we would like to at least be able to toggle back and forth between heating and air. And we want to also propose the 70 because that actually seems to be where most people would like to have it. And I know there were conversations about possibly insulating the ducts where 70 would be okay, doing some cleaning of that. And so we wanted to bring that back as a counter. And that was the last piece in teacher 6. So is there any part where we want to have some conversation?
I think so. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Well, on to teacher article 4. And this is the supervisor feedback. Like that. It's double printed, so there's quite a few of these. And so on teacher article 4, and I'll give you guys a minute. It's going to be on the very back page. Okay. Um. So this was a rejection from the employer last time, and we've revised, our counter this time. And we've had some discussion offline about this too. And so this kind of encapsulates what we've talked through, offline. And so it reads, each member of the bargaining unit shall have the opportunity to provide their administrators or supervisors at the end of the first and third quarter of each school year. Provide feedback, sorry, it's a word. At the end of the first and third quarter of each school year in the form of an electronic anonymous survey with questions and format to be mutually agreed to by the district and the association. This feedback is meant to assist administration in refining their policies, procedures, and management style for continuous improvement at worksite morale and operations. This feedback will be provided at request of the association through the chief of schools. And so this lessens the frequency from each quarter to at the end of the first and the end of the third, which we feel that if you wait till the end, people have already decided if they're going to leave, they're going to leave. And so it gives people a good solid 9 weeks to, if they're at a new school or if they have a new, supervisor, or they're just settling in, it gives them some time to settle in, and provide some initial feedback at the end of the first quarter. This is not meant to be punitive. This is not meant to even be evaluatory for your principals or your supervisors, but we felt that it was important to be able to have that continuing reflective piece, as we move forward, because a lot of times subordinates don't feel comfortable providing that feedback to a supervisor. And so we wanted to lessen it, but we didn't want to wait till the end semester or the end of the year, because people at the semester, if they're going to leave, they're looking to leave at the semester as our contract language lets them. And so we wanted to provide adequate time for principals and supervisors to take this in, reflect, talk to the staff about, and then make changes as we're all in this together. And we've got to make sure that a school or a program is working well and that everybody's cohesive, knowing that as adults, we don't have to always like the people that we work with, but we have to be professional and work with them. And we want that continuous feedback model. So that was the changes that we made to the supervisor feedback.
I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions. I'll reserve them for when we come back for county.
Okay. All right, moving on. We've got the staffing plan. Right, and 8.2 would be a new section to this article, and it is the subbing in classrooms. And again, this would save money, to an extent it wouldn't cost any money. And it is revised to say each district-wide employee who serves in a supervisory role, including but not limited to the superintendent, deputy superintendent, chief of staff, associate superintendents, regional assistant superintendents, assistant superintendents, senior directors, principals, assistant principals, staff attorney, technical college directors, assistant directors, coordinators, event evening programs, etc., will substitute in a classroom position as support or instructional staff, giving some leeway, taking in what Mr. Hyde said, that he does sometimes need to be available if emergencies arise. And so even if that's in a non-instructional role in that school, you're still in a school for a day. Will substitute in a classroom position as support or instructional staff designated as an ESE separate class, behavior unit, ESE pre-K through 2, or for a tested subject area within a transformation school for the duration of a normal student day once a semester. So this takes it down from once a quarter to once a semester. And some of the things that when we were talking through this, You know, and even likened to any of us, when we have days that we have to be out, whether we're sick or our kids sick, or we're might be taking a long weekend because we don't get to use our vacation time, or whatever it might be. We have contingency plans and or sub plans or ways for people to cover us, right? In the event that we're out of pocket for that day. We would have this be no different for any district-wide staff, knowing that, you know, we all take days and jobs have to be covered, and, you know, we're out. And so this would be no different, except you would just be at a school for that day. And we're not asking for everybody to do it on the same day, because that's also unreasonable. But if you guys are rotating through, that's not an unreasonable ask. And we all know that we do things above and beyond. You know, I know, Brian, last time you said you do graduations, you guys do wandings, and those are all great. Those are the things that are needed, and graduation's fun. I know it's taxing, but those are fun. We really feel, and our folks feel, that this would be important for you all, for them to see you walk a day and what's going on into the day to day. So when like the day is not good, right? Graduation's a nice feel good, fun thing. The first day of school, the first couple of days of school, everybody's excited, it's fun, but really getting a perspective of what it's like in the day to day when you're not having a good day, or when a kid is acting crazy, or, you know, when things don't go to plan. And so we really feel that it would be a cost savings. It wouldn't cost anything more, and that would be a really big gesture to show that we are all in this together. And so that's why we're reissuing this with slightly different proposed language.
I'm going to reserve comment. This was a rejected proposal at our last negotiating moment together. I've said my piece then. We are here to work collaboratively. We've talked about that. I'm tempted to go down the road of, you know, it's a big piece for you with respect to you want us to appreciate what you do every day. What I'm wanting to say is, you know, I think it's a two-way street. You know, I think sometimes I wish you guys could see what we do every day.
Mm-hmm.
While we're talking about the kid that's difficult to manage and control, walk with any of us for a day while we walk through a difficult grievance, or a difficult mediation, or a hearing, or a discipline on a teacher, or name it. We could continue on. So I think I'm asking for us to mutually respect the fact that we're all doing difficult jobs. And I'm still not convinced that removing us from what we do every day. And I noticed you even have school leaders in here, principals and assistant principals. I think that's going to be a huge piece for us to evaluate and discuss as well. Thank you.
Can I ask? And just out of curiosity, when we're talking about y'all, do y'all attend this job? Are y'all at this job every single day that there is a student, all 180 days? Do y'all ever call in sick or take a vacation day? Like ever?
We work 12 months a year. We're here in the summer.
I do
even when you're
too.
not.
But I'm asking.
And with respect to, you know, yes, we take vacations and sick time, just like you don't get vacation, but we take the sick time like you do.
Right.
We take the vacation as we're awarded. If you're getting at the point of we take exorbitant amounts of time off.
Not at all. No,
I
I'm
would-
saying that I'm assuming that right now, Brian, if you have to call in sick
Right.
or you have to take a vacation day, that there is currently a plan in place. Something happens that.
You
those
know what
days are-
happens many times when our staff are sick, when they call in sick.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I get fussed at from risk management because I have staff that I'm trying to shut down because they are on Teams meetings, hoarse, logging in from home, working, because they're still trying to keep up with the workload and their engagements of the day. And we're saying, no, you need to shut down. You've got to get better. We need you back. I don't think that's any different than your group, you know, that is doing the same thing.
I'm just talking about, like,
So,
y'all
you know.
paying more than, this is 2 days in an entire year
Mhm.
total that we're asking for. And I'm saying you do put plans in place for when you are sick or call in, and I don't want you to work sick either. And I would not want you to sub when you're sick. I'm just saying that this concept and like what you mentioned, like with the wanding and everything else, 100%, but you also, our people also do that regular work during the day, and then they are club sponsors and athletic coaches and academic coaches, and they also attend graduation. And some of our people are just like, I 100% am not diminishing anything y'all bring to the table. I'm saying that your staff are saying, before you make judgments, before you propose language, before you tell us what we're worth, please spend 1 day a semester, 2 days a year, and see what we are actually dealing with in the classrooms every single day to inform what you do and what you propose and what you change and your thoughts on a situation. And I, Brian, would be happy to come and shadow you or sub for you one day. I don't know if anybody else does. I would be happy to. And likewise, I would love for you to come and shadow me for a day. Like, I mean, I think it'd be wonderful if we could all walk a day in each other's shoes. But the fact is that we currently do have 450 vacancies. And day to day, more subs than that as teachers are sick. And we are talking about a cost saving measure that also provides a little insight into the lives of the employees that we are bargaining the contracts and salaries for right now.
All right. 15.
15 what?
Teacher 15.
Okay.
Sorry. It's 15. You have to guess what contract pageant. All right, teacher article 15. We only printed out page 412 because it's literally just a clause that we added on page 4. So then the other language would be changing, essentially. And so 15.2-2. I'm going to start from the first sentence that this phrase is added into. So all observable EPCs, essential performance criteria, ratings will be documented throughout the year on the forms provided based on walkthrough observations, informal observations, and formal observations. And this is where the new language is that we're proposing. Though no evaluations can be documented until the completion of the 8-day count. We're not saying that they can't walk through those classrooms. We want them to walk through those first couple days because that sets a really good tone at the school when your principals and APs and your deans, everybody's walking through. And it's not for the teachers, it's so that kids see the presence of administration, right? But what we also have encountered over the years is that principals start trying to put journey observations in the first couple of days. And we've had some success in squashing that and say, no, that's not right. But we want it to be set that an actual formal observation cannot be put into journey until after the 8-day count. And so that's what that language is.
Straightforward. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Woo! All right. Okay, next ones are a little bit weird. Okay, so these are the three different contracts, and the language is kind of related to them. So I'm going to give you all three, but I'm going to start with the teacher and then so that people don't get. So this is the teacher first. And then this is the ESP. And this is the para. Okay, so these three relate to right of assignment. And so it's very similar language. That's why we're putting it all together. The language is a little bit different for our paras and secretaries because they don't have, their language is just slightly different when we talk about pay grades and things like that. But the concept is the same. And so I'll read the teacher one and then I'll read the ESP one because the parent ESP are the same language. And so I did page 2 and 3 of Article 14 in the teacher, because that's where the changes are. And so in 14.7 in the teacher contract, we would be proposing at the end of 14.7 to add the following. For any potential changes to assignments during the school year, principals or supervisors will first seek volunteers. Employees shall not have a change in assignment for which they are not qualified, or that includes duties outside of their current grade level or course, job description, or salary schedule, without written notice and conference with the employee. The building principal supervisor must provide in writing reasons for why the change in assignment is necessary to the functionality of the school or program. If the employee disagrees with the written reasons provided by the principal or supervisor, they must appeal within 1 workday. Upon appeal and to avoid disruptions to student learning and program, the employee will not be reassigned until the regional superintendent can review the reassignment and make a determination of necessity. The determination of necessity must occur within 5 workdays. And this is for changes to assignment within a school year, whether it might be a grade level change or a course change, or hey, behavior interventionist, we have a vacancy that we've got to fill, it's tested, I've got to move you, whatever that might be during the year. And this is to help first seek volunteers if somebody else would like to go into that role. And then move through that if there really is a need that's data driven, there's something there that, and I'll just say data driven, because data driven could be, you know, whether it's test points or relational issues or whatever it might be, that's documented, there could be a reason, and to limit the number of changes that are happening during the school year. Now, this does not, with displacement, with unit losses at the beginning of the year, this doesn't impact that. We still have displacement language that if you're reducing a program or, you know, units are being added or taken away, we still have language that addresses all of that in other articles. And then the para and ESP language for that. And that language is the same, so I'll just read one of them. So for potential changes to assignments during the school year, principals or supervisors will first seek volunteers. Employees shall not have a change in assignment for which they are not qualified, or that the duties outside of their current job description or pay grade without written notice and conference with the employee. And then the rest of the language is the same as the teacher.
Yes, I'm thinking about 2 questions before I go back and review this. Teachers seek to want to move from a grade level or from an assignment. We had a situation this week, you and I reviewed about that.
Yep.
How does that lay inside of this?
Well, that would be the employee asking for a different change. This is when a principal saying, hey, you know, maybe your data is not looking good, or maybe, you know, we're having some interactions here and it's documented, data driven.
Yeah.
We're talking about those types of changes that the employee is not necessarily asking for.
I anticipated that. What if I have an administrative reason for why I need to move someone to another grade level? Maybe it's by way of performance, have a need, or maybe it's non-performance, or maybe it's, you know, I have a situation with schedules or a group of kids. You know, I've got all these things that I'm talking about that I just listed are physical examples that we touch every day. So I need to make that happen. It seems like a management right to me. So talk to me how, where you see that laying inside of that, because I have a real need to get something done, and I don't need this to encumber or hinder that getting done.
Well, and I think with what you've just laid out, that in the provision that the building principal or supervisor must provide in writing the reasons why the change in assignment is necessary to the functionality of the school or the program, would fit into all of those reasons that you just had listed out. And then what it really does is that if the employee disagrees with that, then there is a way that it's not just to them. And if they say, no, I don't agree with the data that you're presenting, here's my data, or, this person is saying this is what I'm saying. And then that kind of triggers where their regional can review it and see if there's really a necessity, based on what the principals outlined. Then really putting those things in writing so that if there is a need, like you're saying, we don't want to inhibit, the school running the way it should. And the principal, the supervisor does have management rights to assignment, but this also adds a layer of protection to the employee, because we also have dealt with through the years, principals are not perfect either. And we've had a very small, I would not say that it's widespread, but we've had small numbers of principals throughout the years where they have been vindictive. We had one a couple years ago. The principal's not here in Polk County Public Schools anymore because they decided to make a change. But this principal was very vindictive and was just moving people because she could. And so this helps eliminate some of that to where it's in the middle of the year and you just have to be able to justify why during the year. Now, if you're talking about changes for next school year, that's still current language. So we're really trying to dig at those types of changes that happen during the year. And to your point, the principal would still be able to do that. And it would just be in writing so that we could see the data of why this decision is being made.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think to your concern with the regional, they could have up to 5 days, but they don't have to. And so if the principal is doing this for a good reason, more than likely, by what I've seen, they've already talked to their regional, like they've already discussed this. So the regional should very easily be able to say no, I've seen the reason, we're good. That's their appeal process. But the fact that there's at least one other set of eyes happening on this change for the teacher.
I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay.
There is a lot of moving pieces within the system when we talk about
Mhm.
how many instructional staff are moving around. Paras ESP is one thing.
Mhm.
ESP is moving within an office
Yeah.
to different jobs, different job grades.
Yeah.
I get that. But we'll take it back and review. Thank you.
Right. We gotta keep everything together. Or it takes me 2 hours to figure out where all my papers went.
Let me make sure. Let me see. So para was 8.21 and ESP was 8.
It's 8. I think I added at the end,
8.6.
so we didn't have to renumber anything.
Got that. Ready.
All right, the next group is also a group because they're related. And really it's kind of weird because we're looking to address some of the student referral issues. But it seemed to fit the best in another, anyway, we'll go through it once you guys have it. So here's the ESP. Here is the Teacher 5. And here's the Para 5. So we'd like to start with the Para and ESP first. Because the teacher change, there is only one proposed change in the teacher, and it's also mirrored in the Para and ESP. So to start I'll just start with Para 5, and this is the same language in ESP 4.5. Student referrals. When an offense, persistent misbehavior, or the disruptive effect of misbehavior makes the continued presence of a student or students in the classroom or other area intolerable, the students may be referred by the teacher or any other member of staff that witnessed such misbehavior to the principal or his or her designee for appropriate disciplinary action. In such case, an account of the problem or incident will be submitted in writing by the teacher or staff member to the principal or his or her designee. The principal or his or her designee shall respond to the referral in writing as the disposition of the case. And so what we're looking at, this is really already covered in the teacher contract in a lot of, in other places. But what we were finding is that as secretaries who have some interaction with students in the front office. And particularly our para educators who are directly dealing with students for most of their day, they were unable to write referrals. They did not have access and focus to write referrals. And so we want to make sure that they contractually have that right to write a referral on a student when they witness the misbehavior. And so that's what this language is really getting at, so that our para educators and our secretaries, as they personally witness misbehavior, if it rises to the level of a student referral, that they are able to do that. Yeah, and that's straight from the teacher contract. And so that was the first part of these two.
So if I-
Okay.
so I got para 5.5-1,
Mhm.
and I've got ESP 4.51.
Yep,
And they are the same.
they're the same.
And so then I had a teacher.
Oh, and well, and mine, it says like area, like student, like classroom or area, and the ESP does say office.
And then I think I was handed a 5.9-6, is that?
For teachers, and so let's continue, because the teacher one, there's only one proposed change. And that is also in the para and ESP, and they just happen to be kind of in the same article. And so it's onboarding. And so that's the only proposed change in the teacher, and then it's also proposed in the para and ESP because that's the relevant article.
The teacher, we added the words or other staff members, because right now it just says teacher.
Yes,
And the idea was just everybody having access to referrals.
that's in the authority.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's gonna be in the next one you get from teacher authority. I said, this one's kind of messy because it's in all other places.
I gotta follow along. I was with you on 5.51, 4.51. And now I'm looking at association rights on
Yeah.
5.96, new language.
And so that mirrors in the para and ESP at the end of those articles that are in front of you.
So if I take 5.9-6 and I look at
And if you look at,
ESP,
if you look at ESP 4.28, which would be new. And if you look at para 5.28,
okay,
it's onboarding.
okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yep. And so it's just the way it all kind of fit together. That's it. I told you, hang with me a little bit. And so the onboarding language that we are proposing, because this is something that we feel is a real need. We have employees that come in that don't know what their rights are. They don't know what their responsibilities are. Because we don't truly have an onboarding process. And I know that's something that has been, we've been talking a lot about onboarding and new employee orientations and things like that. We also understand that that does put a strain on your staff to provide that. And so what we are offering is we would like to help with that. And so the onboarding language that we have is each employee covered under the PEA collective bargaining agreement shall be required to visit the PEA office as part of their onboarding process prior to being released for duty in order to review their contracts and be apprised of their rights and general processes and procedures as an employee of the district. And so that takes some of that stress off of the employer side. It would be just like their checklist and IIQ that they have to, we would give you a report, however that ends up being, of who's come by and part of their onboarding. And we want to be able to go through their contracts and their rights and responsibilities, because it's not, our contract's not just about unfettered rights. There are responsibilities in that contract too. There's responsibilities for attendance. There's responsibilities for evaluation and SAO. There's things that they have to do. Our paras and ESPs also have an evaluation process and journey. When we're talking about paid leaves and transfers and all of those things, having dedicated time so that people understand where to find their contract and knowing their rights and responsibilities as they are becoming part of the employment membership in Polk County Public Schools. And so we wanted to offer that because we know that that has been something that we have struggled to get across the finish line, knowing that there's limitations with staff on the employer side to make this work. And we wanted to offer that piece, because when people are informed of their rights and responsibilities and how to find them, they tend to be better employees. And they tend to be more educated in what they can and can't do. And that's something that we want. We want people to know what their rights and responsibilities are.
Good, thank you.
Okay. All right. And last piece of language. So our last piece of language is in teacher Article 10, and that's teacher authority and protection. And this is where Kat was saying that our staff member is added to the referral process. And so in 10.4-1, we are proposing to add into existing language. So the current language reads in 10.4-1, when an offense, persistent misbehavior, or the disruptive effect of misbehavior makes the continued presence of a student or students in the classroom, we're proposing to add or other area intolerable. The misbehavior, the student may be referred by the teacher or any other member of the staff that witnesses such misbehavior. And that's new language. So that mirrors what we just went through with the para and ESP. To the principal or his or her designee for appropriate disciplinary action. That's current language. In such case, an account of the problem or incident will be submitted in writing by the teacher in addition or staff member to make it clear that it's not just classroom teachers that can write referrals on misbehavior, that it's your media specialist, it's your school counselor, it's your testing coordinator, it's your dean, that should be an obvious one. It's your paraeducators, it's any adult on campus can write a referral for misbehavior and having access to do that. And then in 10.4-2, this is existing language, and what we did, we took back what Superintendent Hyde said last time about being specific about the behaviors that we were referring to, the extreme ones, because we're not talking about a kid like my kid, and I'll put him on blast. He'll sit here and do this all day long until you're driving crazy, but that's not a referral. That's not being removed from, that might be a referral, but that's not a referral to be removed from the class for the whole day. And so what we're talking about, so this is existing language, and we took that into consideration here. So existing language in 10.4-2, in cases when the disruptive effect of the student's behavior is so extreme as to preclude the instructional process, the teacher shall indicate on the referral the need to remove the child temporarily from the classroom until such time as the student, teacher, and principal or other appropriate authority resolves the situation. That's existing language. What we are proposing to add, when the student's behavior includes use of profanity towards staff, hitting, kicking, biting, or throwing heavy or sharp objects with the intent to injure, intentionally spitting or dispersing other bodily fluids, destruction of property, or threats of violence directed at a staff member or another student, the student will not be returned to that instructor's classroom or supervision for the remainder of the day. And so when we were looking through the code of conduct, those are behaviors that they would be coded as a major in ISS, OSS anyway, depending on where they're at in the student progression for discipline. And so this is something we feel very strongly about, that a small minority of children in this district cannot supersede the learning of all the other students and the working environment of the teacher and the para and the other staff members on campus. And we talked even offline last week with the superintendent, and some of you guys were present. We in public schools feel sometimes like we educate every child, but sometimes a child needs another setting. And if the behavior is persistent enough, and I know that there's talks of, bringing back some of those alternative programs and things like that to deal with this, But we have to make a hard stance that this kind of behavior is not okay. And that when other students see a child return that has destroyed their classroom and they're not feeling safe. I know one of our bargaining team members, Miss Terry McKay, spoke in front of the board last night, talking about how she feels compassion for this child. And some of you heard that. But that child cannot continue to make the other students and her feel unsafe. And so this is the kind of behavior we're talking about. And if the parent has to come up and pick that kid up, then so be it. Because at smaller schools, they don't have ISS because they don't have the staffing for ISS. While I'm grateful that my lovely child behaves in regular school, I have had to go pick him up from the YMCA because he has acted egregiously at the YMCA, and I, as the parent, have had to come pick him up. I mean, and he gets consequences when he gets home, and he knows it, but parents have to be part of this solution here. And so we have to be not just taking this and being martyrs to this. We have to be involving the parent in the solution to this, because we cannot continue to have a small number of children. If we really are in the business of having kids feel safe and learn, we have to take a firm stance on this. And we feel that we took the superintendent's suggestions last time, we put them in writing. We're not talking about little things. These are egregious behaviors that would warrant ISS or OSS in the student code of conduct. And so we are putting that to you guys for consideration. Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, you're good. So, and I do want to refer back to the survey, because if we look back at the survey on the behavior side, on the back, you know, and we know everybody responded in surveys, not everybody responds, but we had about 33% respond, which is a pretty good sampling size in any other statistical data analysis to have 33% respond. 1,826 staff members said that they've experienced students in their care being hit, kicked, spit on, cussed at, or witnessed destruction by another student. And then 1,738 staff members said, in your classroom or position, have you personally experienced and handled a student where the disruptive effect of the student's behavior is so extreme as to inhibit or stop the instructional process or the school environment? 1,738 people responded yes, which means that we could probably proportion that out to where that's more. These are just the people that responded. And then of those people that said yes, 1,028 had that kid come back. And that's a problem. The same day. And that sets it, we are all here to educate children to the best of our ability. And that sets a horrible tone for the classroom. And so looking at the survey results, this is something, and everything that we presented today are non-economics in people's work lives as they're working for Polk County Public Schools. And these are things that also make children feel safe in their learning environment. And 300, and we're still disaggregating, thank you. And we're still disaggregating the responses because we closed the survey yesterday. We had over 1,200 people write responses that describe the situations they were dealing with. And so we are going to be in the process of disaggregating that and doing trends like we do in a climate survey. And 300 people said they would be willing to speak about their experiences. And so, and that's powerful. And so we wanted to make sure that that was also in the record. Are there any questions about the teacher authority?
Thank you.
Okay. And our last piece is the wage counter, which is a reissuing of 2.5%. So this is a reissue of 2.5%. We met on Friday. I and my team that met, we talked to our bargaining team. We still feel that 2.5% is reasonable. That it's within your budget, and that most of our districts across the state, and specifically in Central Florida, and I didn't print out a lot of those because that's the same, literally the same piece of paper you got on October 1. So I did not print out a lot of those, and my team already had them. That this is within your budget. It is about the average raise that most people in Central Florida are seeing this year and across the state. It's within range. And as we are now officially working toward a millage referendum, we have to at least be keeping up with inflation and cost of living to keep people here, because we will not see millage money until the 27-28 school year when this passes. And so we have this school year and next school year where we're going to have to dig deep. We're going to have to really look at the priorities so that we can keep people here so that they can actually receive the much needed millage money. And so with that, that is the conclusion of our presentation today.
Okay. And with that being said, I was looking at our time. We're at 5:45. I think I count up, you gave 11 different proposals,
That sounds about right. Hold on.
11
One,
non-economic proposals.
3. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Some of them I have some feedback on perhaps right away, but I think it would be perhaps best if we just look at them as a whole package. I need to get behind the scenes with the group of people here. There's a lot of stuff to wade through. I kind of came into this evening knowing we were going to start with the end in mind with where we ended with the financial piece. I do know that the 2.5% that you presented is something that was on the table last time. We will take that back and we will review. I will say that anything that is discussed that takes us below a 5% fund balance, it has to be, presented, discussed with the board, because of the board policy. We've talked about that ad litem here, stamp an item. So I want to be clear about that. We were very mindful of when we were at the table last time, not last time session, but last year when we settled on 5.3. When we were here last year, we were really, all of us, committed to close, right, to get it tentatively agreed upon. And the very last piece we discussed was we needed, I think it was $4 or $5 million. And we dug into programs, we started cutting. We've talked about that as well. We're at a place now where whatever we do forward is going to have a similar implication as well. So I want to be clear that when we did that last year, we offered the 5.3 average. We knew then that that was a big increase. We were all of us, I think, pleased with that. So we have heard what was presented at the board meeting. I heard the remarks about the COLA. I've heard the remarks about the rent and the car payments, and we're receptive. So we're doing what we can. So I'm saying we need to take this back and have some time.
Okay.
I can tell you straight out, we can't do a 2.5%. So I can tell you that. But we will again sharpen our pencils and do the best we can to see if we can bring back a counter that would be agreeable. We've got a lot of the non-economics, and when we put that together, perhaps with some more economics, perhaps we can get to where we need to be. So I think rather than belaboring, a caucus where we go back and talk and belabor everybody's time, I'm wondering if it would be best if we maybe take a moment, we can let this soak in. That would bring us back to the table again in December. I also heard the remarks of the board about why can't we just get this done? Stephanie, you gave us 11 non-economic proposals, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so,
In fairness, the superintendent said, what else can you bring that's non-economic?
what I'm trying to illustrate there is there's a lot of language here. I mean, you were talking about open book. We're almost there right now in various concepts. So I need to be clear that this is not just us holding a process up or, oh, let's just have one more meeting. We didn't come prepared, tonight to get this done. If I'd had 6, which was what we started with last time, that's almost half of what I got now. But now I've got twice on the table that I've got to respond to, which we will. And we'll look forward to an opportunity to talk about that next time. So why don't we go ahead, if it's agreeable, and see if we can talk about a time in December? And
December's
go from
tight,
there.
so
I know
we
it's tight.
need to, and I'm out
Okay.
the entire last week.
A date, that's what I was trying to pull up. I thought we had reserved a date. And I thought we had tentatively.
Did we
Oh.
throw a December date out?
No, we
It's
ended,
for November.
we ended with this one.
I think you're right.
Okay, so let's try, we had. Oh, I don't like that date.
December 3rd.
Let's try some dates that Jim Miles is available where we can get all of our rooms here. I've got a Thursday, 12/18 from 4:30 to 7:30.
So
That's-
I am out the entire week of December 15th.
So let's
This was
go,
planned a year and a half ago.
let's go back. I hate a Friday, but let's go back to Friday the 12th. We've got the 4:30, 7:30 here at Jim Miles available then.
So I'm trying to pull it up.
Okay.
Okay, we have an event. We have 2 events.
What about Thursday, the 11th? We could move our executive board meeting.
We would have to get back to you on, I'm not
Okay.
sure if we have availability here.
Okay.
Um,
Can we
and
look
I
at
know
the
we always
10th?
talk about alternate sites, but
Yeah.
we're used to this site. I think all of us are growing used to it.
Yeah.
So, what was the?
So Karen, can we look at,
This. Oh, what, that way had the 3 rooms, but we maybe could make it work. What's the, I don't think that works for her. The
Which one?
16th is not.
I'm out the entire week. It's been planned for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. I will literally be not here.
I don't wanna do that one because I wanna get to the board.
I understand. So yeah, that was it.
So I may have to go back to the drawing board.
Well, can we look at, and I know we're used to this site, but I think to try to get one date, if we can look at some of the schools in this area. Lakeland High School has a big open spot. We don't really have too much because we're not printing really. We just really need some boards.
And I'm thinking the next time we're together, there will be a lot of printing and back and forth.
Okay.
You have started an 11 proposal cycle. Which will require paper going back
Okay.
and forth. I'm not making jest of it, but
Yeah,
to dig out of what's been presented,
Mhm.
there will be paper.
so can we look at
Let's
December
get proposed
3rd?
dates and then we'll discuss further what options are for locations.
Y'all didn't have anything the first week of December?
Well, I'm gonna say, I'm asking them to look at the 3rd. So if we can look at December
I
3rd,
had a date where I could get in here, but I don't want to use it because I need,
I
I
think
need to have an
I had December
opportunity.
1st in my head that we had listed
it's
that.
before the board meeting, so it's usually, it's to me.
okay.
So you want to look at December 3rd.
So then can we look at the 10th? And the 11th? And even, well, the 8th is before the board meeting.
Yeah.
Paper.
What about, let's just do this. I know the board meeting is Tuesday the 9th. Do you have 12/8 is available, the Monday?
We can do 12/8.
Why don't we put a hold on 12/8?
Okay.
Only because I can get in here, we can all be here. I think that's all the rooms are available.
It was.
It's not a perfect
Okay.
world because it's actually the day before.
Yeah.
But,
That gives
let
you
me
guys a
see
little
what
bit of
options
time.
I have behind the scenes,
Okay,
with respect to any legalities and, proposals we need to bring forward. And so that gives us a hard date to leave here tonight,
mhm.
so we're not into January still.
Do we want to have the 11th as a backup?
I'll check the other dates as well.
Okay. And I think Kat said she's teaching a class on,
The tenth.
The 10th.
11th is the
The
okay,
10th you lose me as well.
okay. So if we can look at the 8th and the 11th to try to secure one of those dates.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else to add. Thank you, and we will review everything you presented. And then we'll have counters and or rejections or discussions on those when we come back.
Yeah.
And we'll.
And if you have
dig
questions in
on
the
these
interim,
and call you.
yep,
I think I have your number.
I think so.
All right.
Everybody else.
So I think that being
Right.
said,
I think most people have my number at this point. Somehow.
I'm ready to go
675,
offline if you are as well. We'll conclude this evening and we'll be done.
All right,